I was on a coaching call not too long ago with a podcaster who published 100 episodes. She was consistent, good quality content, and was showing up every single week. And one day on this call, she looked me dead in the eye, well, through the screen, of course, right? And said, Zeal, I feel like I'm publishing consistently. I'm doing all the things. I feel like my podcast does not exist and nobody is listening. And honestly, I've heard this version of the same sentence more than I can count. But here's what I told her, and this is what I'm about to share with you today. That the problem isn't consistency, isn't the microphone, it isn't the setup, it's not your editing, it's not even your download count. The number one reason why podcasters stay invisible is something that nobody talks about. And by the end of this video, you're going to see how your own show and how you could do things differently through a different set of lens. All right, so let's get right into it. First and foremost, let me introduce myself. If this is the first time checking out the YouTube channel, or if you've been on this channel before, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Ozeal. I'm a podcast growth strategist. I'm the founder of Pod Houston, which is a local podcast community here in Houston, Texas. I've spent the last 10 years in the podcasting world, helping entrepreneurs, founders, coaches, creators turn their shows into real legit business content machines. And today I want to talk to you about something that keeps a lot of great podcasters stuck. And this has nothing to do with how often you post, has nothing to do with how good your audio sounds. We're going to cover some deeper factors here, okay? We're going to cover what's actually making your content invisible, okay? And number two, why just keep publishing content, be consistent is really bad advice, and what to do instead, real practical shift on how you can make this work for your show, all right? So if you're ready, let's dig right into it. And first things first, here's the thing that I hear a lot of podcasters say, you have 200 episodes, let's say, you have a great show name, you have solid production, and you're invisible to the people you're trying to reach. And the reason why is because you never clearly told anyone who the show is for. This is what I call brand positioning. And I shout this from the top of the podcasting building all the time: foundation, foundation, foundation. Can I say it again? Foundation is everything. And if you think about it, if I ask you right now, right, just pretend that I'm having you, we're doing a coaching call. What's your podcast about? Who is it for? And what are you going to bring to the ongoing conversation? Can you answer that in one sentence? A clear, specific one-liner, a sentence that would make your ideal listener say, that show is for me. I should listen to that. I should watch that. Because most podcasters, I'm going to tell you, my friend, they can't. They struggle with this every single time I do this exercise. And I will say it takes time. There's layers to it. But if we don't dial in the foundation, everything else becomes super hard, from the launch to the marketing. And then that's how podcasters burn out. And I hear a lot of podcasters when they always reply to this exercise, and they're like, well, it's about business, it's about mindset, it's about this, it's about that. I interview, entrepreneurs, and we talk about life and success and their mistakes, and all. It goes on and on and on. And that's not positioning. That's like a word salad of a podcast of like all the things. And I'm gonna call it the Sarah Jones podcast now. Anyways, so that you see a lot of that. And I get a lot of that when I'm coaching clients. So when you're not clear on who the show is for, you're not for anyone, okay? And the algorithm doesn't care because, new listeners won't care. Potential clients definitely don't care. The woman that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, and that was her problem. She had 100 episodes, great content, but she aimed it at everybody, which means that it landed with nobody. So what's the fix, Ozeal? You got to get brutally, ruthlessly, crystal clear and specific. Define that one ideal listener, that one super fan, and identify that one core problem that you help them with, and then the outcome that they're going to walk away. What is your promise? If I click on your podcast episode, what is the promise? Is it clear? If I listen to you, I'm going to give you my time and energy on a weekly basis to listen to your show. What's your promise? I'm giving you my time. It better be worth it. And that's how your listeners are thinking. Okay. And that's how they're approaching whether or not they should click on that podcast. All right. So I need to address something because this advice is everywhere and it's doing damage. And you're probably seeing this on your feed, or you might be listening or following a podcast guru or coach out there who's saying this. Just keep showing up. Just keep posting. Consistency is key. And look, consistency matters. I'm not going to negate the importance of being consistent. It matters for sure. I'm not going to tell you and say, hey, ghost your audience. No, consistency matters. With consistency without strategy is just busy work. You're like aimlessly trying to just figure out, you're just throwing, and you got the blinders on, you're just going, pushing. And there's no real strategy to who you're trying to connect with. So here's an example. I've worked with podcasters who post every single week. They're consistent. That's not a problem. They promote it on Instagram, on TikTok. They're reposting all their content on LinkedIn, et cetera. They're doing all the things on all the platforms. And their downloads still, they haven't moved in 6 months. Not because they're lazy, but because they're running fast in the wrong direction. And what nobody tells you is that the algorithms, they reward relevancy and they reward the topics that are happening right now, the conversations that are happening. That's what they reward. They don't reward frequency. If you need proof, look, I've been super consistent on YouTube. I love you, YouTube. Come on, give me some love. And then the times that I've been consistent, I really don't see a lot of growth. And again, it's not to say that consistency matters, because I've been in situations where I've been consistent and intentional, and then that really kind of moves the needle. But just showing up consistently doesn't work that way, right? YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, they're all trying to match your content. And this is what I've discovered through having multiple conversations with YouTubers and podcasters that are top 1%. They create relevant content. They're mindful of the conversations that are happening. And then the algorithms are matching it because they understand good titles, good show notes, great SEO, and they're tying that episode with already the ongoing conversation. Relevancy, that matters to the in this interest-based, industry world that we're living in, right? People are searching based off interest and topics. That's what's happening now. But let's peel back the foundation. If your show isn't positioned properly, the platforms out there can't figure out who to put that content in front of. So that content, no matter if you're consistent or not, is going to put you in front of nobody. So the fix isn't post more, be consistent, just keep on showing up. Something will land for you. No, that's not good advice. I can speak because I've been a practitioner of consistency. The fix is to get clear, crystal clear. Be very intentional about who the show is for, what the show is about, and what you're going to bring to the table. And then you add consistency, and it's game over. Now you will start moving the needle. And that's the big mindset. That's the big difference. Okay. So hopefully this one, let me know, like in the comment section, if this lands differently. And again, if you want more of this content, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, my shameless plug there. But there's a massive difference between having a podcast and building a brand. A podcast is a show. A brand is a reputation. It's the perception of what other people think of you or perceive you as. It's a movement. It's a magnet that will pull the right individual, that super fan, into your ecosystem. And most podcasters out there are just creating content. They're picking the topics, right? They're booking the guests, they're doing all the interviews, they're recording the episodes, they're getting it out there, they got all the tools, but they're just hoping that all of that adds to something. Usually like monetization, like they want to monetize, but brand, audience, and then you monetize. That's my framework. And I'll dig into that in future episodes, future videos. So the ones that I've noticed that are getting the speaking gigs and are getting the coaching clients, they're high ticket coaching clients, the brand deals, the real opportunities. I can speak on this because I work for a podcast network in the marketing side of things. So I get to see and hear the conversations happening. So that's a little insight, because that's, little insight that I can share with you. And I can tell you that they're just not podcasting. They're building a brand through their podcast. Let me repeat that again. The high-level podcasters are not just podcasting. They are building a brand through podcasting. What does that look like? Well, it means that every episode connects back to the central core message. It means that your show title, your cover art, your episode titles, your social clips, they all say the same thing without saying it. It's on brand. It means that somebody who could stumble upon some of your any piece of your content online, they immediately understand, that show is about this. Okay, cool. Let me dig into this. Let me take a listen. Let me watch this. That's brand association. When people can associate your show with a feeling, a thing, a topic, a zeal, hopefully. He's the podcast growth strategist. He's podcast marketing. He's a community guy, right? I know there's a couple, but you get it, right? Or your show, that's for a mental well-being for women over 40. I got you. That's who she is. So again, she's he's the entrepreneur for Gen Xers. Specific, very, very clear. That's brand. So when I was coaching a client a few years back, she launched her podcast, and within 6 months, I was working with her. Like, we were working on a week-to-week basis. And she started, even after our 6-month program was over, she was already getting coaching clients and speaking opportunities. And it wasn't because she was getting thousands of downloads. As a matter of fact, I think per episode, she was getting about maybe 300 downloads or so per episode. Not a lot. 300 downloads. But because her positioning was so tight, it was dialed in. We worked together on her messaging, her brand positioning. It was clear. The right people found her and immediately knew that her podcast was the one to listen to. And she had everything dialed in on the back end, ready to provide those offers and get on discovery calls. And she made it, we worked on her ecosystem where it made it easy for people to connect with her and know what she was about. So that's the power of brand over content. That's brand over everything. So let's get practical. I feel like I'm going through a lot here, but let's get practical. I'm feeling good right now. Here are 3 shifts you need to make right now if you're serious about getting visible with your podcast. Number 1, audit your positioning. All right, go look at your podcast title, your description, your last 5 episodes. Ask yourself honestly, if a stranger landed on your show today, would they know instantly that this show is for them? If the answer is no, or I don't know, that's where you start. Start there. The shift number 2 is stop creating random content. Start building episodes with intention. And what I mean by that is that every episode should do one of 3 things: attract new listeners, build trust with existing ones, or move someone closer to working with you. If an episode doesn't do at least one of those things, then it's just content for content's sake. It's just content. It's not going to do nothing. On to the next. Shift number 3. Treat your podcast like a business tool, not a hobby. This was a huge mindset shift. I was at it was a conference for men, and that was one of the things. This was about, I want to say 8-9 years ago, and there was a big YouTuber in the fashion industry, in the men's fashion industry, and one of the things that he said about the YouTube channel that he had, he said, when you start treating this as a business and less like a hobby, or like, it's just content, that mindset shift changes everything. Like, it separates the amateurs from the real ones. And I've noticed that even with the podcasters that are operating at a high level, that are the top, 5-10% that are really doing it on a big level. I'm sure there's some that you follow. Your show is not just a creative outlet. Sure, I get that. You start the show because you want to have conversations, you want to have fun, right? But it's also a way to nurture your leads. It's a way for people to get to know and trust you on a weekly basis. It's a brand building machine. It is. It's huge for brand building, especially in this day and age of AI, where people don't trust what's happening out there with it. Did you write this? Are you recording this? This is your real voice. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going. It's going to be imperative for personal brands, for founders, for entrepreneurs to really lean into real voice and real conversation. That's going to be important moving forward. This is your stage. This is your business. Start treating it like one. The podcaster that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, remember her? After our session, we we tightened up her positioning, and we reworked her show description, and we mapped out her content strategy, around her ideal super fan, her ideal listener. And then 3 months later, she sent me a message and she says, "Hey, just want to let you know that actually I got a client through the podcast. Somebody reached out to me, and they binged 6 episodes, and they jumped on a discovery call, and I booked, a client for five, I think it was 5K. And we celebrated. Like, I was like, yes, it works. My methods work. And I know this because I've done this numerous times for a lot of coaches and consultants and business owners. This is what I do. And I think that episode, I recall, it had like maybe 500-ish downloads, because we were spiking up. Once we did the whole rebrand, we did the rework, she was able to get some more downloads, and it helped, right? And she crushed it. She crushed it. So I was really proud of her. And the message here is that's what visibility looks like when it comes to podcasting, that it's not about being seen by everyone. It's about being unmistakable to the right ones, right? Being remarkable, as my mentor, Seth Godin, says. You want to be remarkable. You don't want to be forgettable. All right. So look, if you watched the whole video, thank you for sitting with me. And if you're thinking, this all sounds great, you actually look like you could, like you're someone that could help me out. Sometimes you do need to get somebody to help you, a different set of eyeballs and ears to listen to your show and see what's happening. This is what I do as a podcast growth strategist, as a marketing consultant. All right. I do have a podcast growth audit. I'm going to give you an invite where I will audit your podcast episode. I will personalize a 10 to 15 minute video review of your show. I will look at your positioning. I'm going to look at your titles, your audience targeting, your growth opportunities, and I will give you specific, clear, practical action items to take immediately. It's only $97. It's a no-brainer. This is basically I don't make, obviously millions off of this. This is because I really, truly want to help indie podcasters make those tweaks on the back end to level up their show, right, and start treating their show like a business. So if you're ready for that, I'm going to make sure that I link it up at the top. You can just click on it and book it, and we'll go from there. And if you're not ready for it, look, just hit subscribe, because I'm dropping videos, every week on how to grow your podcast, how to build your brand, how to, turn your show into a real business marketing machine for you. All right. So I invite you to join this community and follow me on social media at The Real Ozeal. And I will see you next time. This has been fun. I've been vibing. Hopefully this was helpful for you. All right. I'll see you next time. Peace, one love, and blessings.